Well, first question I'd ask is, who do you trust? You trust yourself or you trust your fears? Because if you trust your fears, you're right, you're already set up for failure and it's not going to work. You might as well do something else. This business is driven by high activity, which creates a small result. And so we have to create activities. I got to have face-to-faces. I got to have a lot of phone calls. And that's why I measure activity with my loan officers every week. I'm pushing and coaching how well are we connecting to our database, how many times are we touching them, and what are we doing that if they think mortgage, they think us. And that is the piece that I'm really concentrating on today. I'm Chris Vinson, and this is the Loan Officer Playbook.
We've been doing this podcast for over 20 episodes now, and we've brought on top mortgage professionals to give you insights that help you grow your business. And we're going to keep doing that. There's just one favor I ask of you. It'll mean a lot to us if you subscribe to show your support. Now back to the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Loan Officer Playbook, where we talk about tips and tricks to help you close more loans and grow your business. Today, my guest is Chris Vinson. Chris is the CEO of Windsor Mortgage, part of Plains Commerce Bank. Chris has over 26 years of experience in the business, and he runs a top producing team at Windsor Mortgage. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Chris, so you are one of the people that I think you have a very humble beginning in the business. But not only in the business, but since you were a kid, we were talking before the show, and then you started off by selling car stereos. You're this sort of like super salesman, and then you got into the business. How was it as a kid selling car stereos to now running a top mortgage company?
Oh boy. I think that when you start to sell early, you start to be able to read people really good. Now that reading people is a good quality, or you could use it as a bad quality, but you have an ability to be able to read the customer. You have an ability, just because of the years of experience, to figure out how quickly could I figure out what their need is or their want, or what's the thing that they want to concentrate on the most. So I think as a young kid selling car stereos and then went to car audio, I feel like it was probably my parents that taught me the most, but then just always being around great salespeople. And then I wouldn't say mimic, but I would say watch to learn was something that I can still today continue to do, of just being able to watch people, whether they're in the industry, outside of the industry, and just never quit learning, I feel like has worked to my advantage.
Awesome. What are some of the ways that you learn? Do you have any particular ways that you pick up things quick?
I think the thing that I learned, I was talking to someone about this, that when you go to a conference or when you're out at dinner, I would say just pay attention. Sometimes we learn the most by paying attention. And so we can take an experience and we can relate it to a story. And then there's usually a lesson there. Like the other day I went out to eat, and my wife and I went out to eat, and it started off this over the top amazing experience and yet ended so poorly. The server was like all of a sudden gone. The food came out, it was cold, and they did remake it and they did make it right. But like, you can start off giving a client a very good experience, but how we finish is what they remember. And so like, here's a real life example of just Shalise and I going out to eat, but then it taught me a lesson by paying attention. I think that would be an example for all of us. If we go to a conference, I got to learn something, and I'm always like, how do I grab 10 takeaways that I could go back and implement? And that's probably been something that over the years I've been really good about, is that going out and learning something and then coming back to the team and then implementing them and delegating them out. I think sometimes we take it all on us to do, and we can delegate out these things to be able to implement to be better.
Yeah, I think it's a very underrated thing to knowing, not only like learning new things, but learning how to learn. I think that's one of the biggest skill sets that I picked up from, I don't know, like doing a computer science education. It's like very theoretical, because like, as you mentioned, paying attention, but then also as you pick up the things, you have sort of like this framework. So my mom was she was a high school teacher, actually elementary school teacher in some parts of my life, but she also taught in high school. And she always had this framework where she would, if she wants me to remember something, she would make sort of like an acronym. And then she would just say, this stands for this stands for this. So, like, I grew up so many acronyms. And I just take that with me every time I try to, find a lot of acronyms and apply that. But that goes on to, you have this ability to learn, and then you have a team of agents and loan officers, originators, and closers, and all those people to then coach and teach. How important is coaching to you in the business?
Yeah, I mean, well, it wasn't, I think coaching saved me. And so years ago, I felt stuck. I felt unmotivated, didn't know if I wanted to do it again. It was a coach that kind of really changed my life. And so then that became a big part of my life, which then came a big part of implementing it into the company. And I would say at first, many owners or originators, they're like, either the owners are scared to coach the originators because if I hold them accountable, they might quit. And the originators are like, I don't know if I want that accountability because then I feel micromanaged and I won't be able to like spread my wings. And I'm like, both of those theories are false. Like, if you want to lead a company, the best thing is that you have to be mentored or lead yourself, and you will be a better leader. And so that was probably lesson one that I learned in, but coaching is everything. So Mondays, we start off with the theme of the week to the whole company. And so we want the whole company to have the theme of the week. And then that leads to coaching our AEs. And then it leads to coaching our LOs. And then it also leads to coaching owners across the country in small group settings to be able to help them get them ideas that they could implement back into their business. Because if we don't have a vision and we don't know where we're going to go, we're going to get lost along the way.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like that's my favorite part. There's duties that I do today that I don't love, but that is my favorite.
What is the theme for this week?
So one of the big things that we're working on this week is the game of inches. And so we're talking about how these little things make a big difference. And I think as companies, we look at for these big, huge ideas and these big, huge things. And really it's just these little things of just continually being improving in. And so I had challenged our managers in preparing for the fourth quarter. What are going to be the things that we're going to get and implement before fourth quarter comes that will make a difference in client experience and in client process?
Yeah. I think I saw your one of your podcasts. You said, I'm not striving to be the biggest. I'm just striving to be the best and the right fit in the situation for the clients. And in the business like mortgages, where numerical values and how much production you're doing, you're number one in this states, like Scotsman Guide, like you're on there. Whereas like the numbers actually really matter. How do you stay grounded? I'm not trying to chase this lofty goals because you're successful. And as you continue to be successful, success is like this hedonic treadmill where you want to achieve more and more and more of it. How do you stay grounded and say, hey, I just want to be the best and I'm not striving to be the biggest, whatever comes along?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm highly competitive. So I don't want to like give out a false sense that I'm like ever super comfortable because I'm not. But,
Yeah.
my loan officers that I don't have the most loan officers, and considered the most, I have probably a small group of loan officers, but they're all top performers. So you got to do 3 to 4 loans a month to work for me. And I'm averaging, I think, 9 loans per LO, which is a very high average. Okay. They're coached, they're very good, they're very high performing, and they're all making great money in no matter the market that they're in. Okay. That's a win for me. If I had 1,000 LOs for me, 1,000 LOs, and they were doing 1 loan a month, that wouldn't be a fit for me. So my AEs, I want them to do more loans on an average and have greater loan volume than an average AE. So I want them to be high performing account executives. And I also want to be within set. I have high performers in both of these areas, but then I want to be a boutique shop. Like I can only do so many loans really, really well. And as I get to a spot to where, Chris, I think you could do more, then I'll get to more. But I can't, like, I feel and I watch so many owners go out there that try to do more first, then try to do really good first. And so if you could get to really good, then it's easy to add. But until you're really good, don't add. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. When these, now top producers come to you, do they come to you with some initial sort of like initial knowledge, like someone has a baseline, you just need to fuel them a little bit, or do they come like as a blank slate and you have to just train them into being top producers?
So I mean, let's just face it. The faster we can find the originator's problem, the faster that we can help them be able to grow and double and triple in loan volume. So the faster you're able to either identify your own problem. It's like golf, okay? Golf is a sport that having someone else watch your swing is the key, because most of the times what you think you're doing, you're not doing in golf. And originating is the same way. What you think you're doing, you might not actually be doing. And so having a coach or someone from the outside being able to look in, it is a blessing. And by the way, I don't do coaching for a living. I do loans for a living. I coach for loans. I don't coach for income. And there are great companies out there, great coaches that I would, if that's the particular piece that you need, I want to refer you to one of these great coaches to be able to say, I'm paying for a coach, because paying for a coach is different than calling Chris, because I'm not charging you. But, I pay for coaches. I continue to pay to go to seminars and listen and be able to learn. And I encourage everyone to do the same. So when we talk about coaching, sure, I coach my own people internally as a benefit that we are a team and we're working together. And I want to make sure that we're all rowing in the same direction. However, I have a lot of customers, realtors and originators, broker owners that I help out and coach or guide through things to be able to help them do better. And if I help them do better, I'll do better.
When you're running these coaching sessions, I'm curious, what are some of like the biggest obstacles for the people that you're coaching? What are the biggest obstacles for them to overcome
Get in the water.
to just get started?
Well, I think that a lot of originators we're entrepreneurs at heart, but yet our entrepreneur spirit gives us the ability to choose. And sometimes we don't make the right choices in what we should be doing because it's either hard, it's uncomfortable, I don't want to, and I'm not sure. And so we get to these spots to where we're like, well, I don't want to get in, because I'm pretty sure that's freezing cold. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It's really freezing cold. It's actually colder than you actually are thinking. But if when you get out, you're going to feel amazing. And the ability to be able to get someone to believe that you can get in and that you are going to get out and feel even better, that's a good coach. But like, there are ways to be able to lead through that to making that decision. Sure, Michael, I could just go up and push you in. And sometimes that's the only option left, is just to push you in. But like, the goal is to let you take the first step, because that's how you get the greatest reward.
Yeah. It reminds me of this commencement speech by Mark Zuckerberg. It was a Harvard commencement speech, and it was saying, you just have to get started. And I like to watch these commencement speeches as my sort of like version of coaching, because folks spend a lot of time preparing for the commencement speech. And there was one where the person was saying, the moment you realize that everything around you was built by people who are no smarter than you, it makes it easier to just get started and just start things. And I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's like fear of rejection, or like how people sort of like perceive, or fear of failure, if you will. And you've been in the business for a long time and you're incredibly successful. How should loan officers deal with in a market like this, where not everybody's doing great? It's like a down market. In a market where failure is, I don't want to say failure is a possibility. It's more a possibility than success is. How should loan officers deal with failure?
Well, first question I'd ask is, who do you trust? You trust yourself or you trust your fears? Because if you trust your fears, you're right. You're already set up for failure and it's not going to work. You might as well do something else. But then, I find a lot of originators that whine and cry that they don't have the business. But when you look at their activity, and I'm like, if I followed you around for a week, would I say you're doing everything right? Or would I say you're not doing as many things as you think you're doing? And that is the reason why you're not getting the success that you want. Like, this business is driven by high activity, which creates a small result. And so we have to create activities. I got to have face-to-faces. I got to have a lot of phone calls. And that's why I measure activity with my loan officers every week. I don't care and pay attention to their closed loans hardly at all. I only track activity. How many phone calls, how many face-to-faces, how many videos, how many thank you cards, how many deals, apps, and locks did you get for a week? That's activity to me. Okay. Sure, you could say, well, Chris, that's a result. You paid attention to locks and apps. I do daily. So every night at 7:01, I call it the casino report, comes out, and they have a data of the AEs see all theirs, the LOs see all theirs. Okay. At 7:01, if you asked any of my AEs, hey, when's the casino report come out, or the LOs, they would say 7:01 because they look at it. And so daily, if I can see that, Michael, you have no apps, but you have locks, I already know you're not getting new business. If I see that you have all apps and no locks, I see you're not converting. So I can pick you faster than you can pick yourself. Hopefully this transfers to yourself, because so many loan officers get left behind because no one can track what they're actually doing. So a week goes by, a month goes by, a quarter goes by, their activity falls out, and no one's paying attention to their apps and locks. And then pretty soon, no checks. So if you pay attention to your activity on a weekly basis and set goals on it, you'll get the success that you want. But is it easy? No, it is not easy, because it comes up to that water thing again. You get a point of a choice. You can choose to get in or you can choose to hang out. But I'm going to tell you, the reward is getting in. And that's why I track that with all of my LOs and have for years.
Why does it come out at 7:01 and not 7:06?
Well, I think it has to be something that's rememberable. Do you remember 7:01 over 7? And I named the casino report after Ocean's 11, when the owner of the casino sat down and here comes Julia Roberts, and Julia Roberts sits down and they bring him the casino report to review how well the casino did for the day. Well, for me, I want to see how well my originators and AEs did for the day. Some of them might need a call. Hey, Michael, you got to pick it up tomorrow. Hey, Michael, don't fall behind. Hey, Michael, you are killing it. And so they want the compliment, because that's our human nature. We want the compliment. But sometimes I've got to hear, I got to step it up. And most originators don't get that on a weekly basis. Wouldn't you want to work for a company that could do something like that and be able to push you but not micromanage you? And I feel like this is the perfect recipe for that.
And you're reviewing these casino reports every day.
7:01.
Which makes sense that you're running a boutique team, because imagine having 100 LOs and reviewing all of their casino reports. It's hard
Easy.
It's easy.
Right, because it's red they hit it, green they did, or red they didn't. So you just concentrate on the red.
Interesting.
So it takes seconds to look at each originator's result.
So you have this, is it like an Excel spreadsheet where you
Yeah, it
have...
looks a little bit like Excel. It has the originators and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and total. And then in coaching, okay, the review of the totals, I go through it. You had a great app week, you're off in locks. You had a great lock week, but you're off in apps. What are we going to do? What's 2 things we're going to do to get more apps this week? That's coaching. If we were playing football and we had a coach and you're like, dude, you didn't have no tackles. Let's work on some drills to be able to get more tackles. That would be a good football coach. A good football coach says, whoop, we're changing the play, Michael, because we're playing a different team. The environment's different. The market's different. So we've got to have some different plays. A football team looks at it like that. Why wouldn't an originator?
Yeah. But do you know the Oakland A's? They were one of the first teams to do hyper data collection, where they're measuring, how many touchdowns. So but they were able to form this one team of people who you kind of think they're defective players, but they're unique in particular
areas.
And I think they went 30 games, 30-0, just winning all these 30 games. So they didn't end up winning the season, but with that hyper measurement, it makes sense that you're thinking of your team as hey, we're a sports team, and how can we measure our performance? Do you have a sports background?
No, I wrestled in high school. My passion in high school was to sell. That was the thing. Have fun, work and have fun. It's always been my motto. So work hard, play harder has always been what I love to do. And I love the reward that like I get to go and celebrate because I put in a good day. Like I love that part. And I always have since I was a little kid. And so I did wrestle, but and I play golf. That's kind of like my thing today. I love playing golf. I love the competitiveness of golf. But I mean, I'm too short to play basketball, and I wasn't big enough to play football. My son played football, played some college football, but he's a big kid, and it fit him perfectly. But me being short, nothing, it didn't fit. It didn't fit very good. I could wrestle, but that was about it.
Yeah, I bet you could wrestle really well because of you got to be able to like get under like different places and then like do some tackles in wrestling. So, tracking what's important is always good. Would tracking be necessary if you have a super elite team that are just killing? Let's say for like, would you still track if for 100 days in a row, all of your AEs, all of your loan officers are hitting the mark? Would you still track?
My job is to make them better.
Mm-hmm.
So the worst thing I could ever do is put them in a box of what you said, because what's better to each AE or LO? Like I'm top performing LOs, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to stop coaching her, even though she'll clip out 10 million in a month in a small town of 300,000 people. So when you live in a big town and you're not getting what you think you should be getting, think of Dawn. She lives in a town of 300,000 people. Her average loan size is just over 300,000. Like she can have all of the excuses in her world, but she has none. And she came from a non-sales background. She was a farm credit dairy farm underwriter. And she came to work for me in '06. And she has killed it from month one. Month one, I think she did $1 million in production. Month one. And then just took off from there. But she has zero excuses. But here's the thing about Dawn. She just does the work. She just does the work. And if you do the work, I promise you'll get the result. But it's the ones that are complaining that aren't willing to go do the work, or they need someone to help them and tweak them because their work, there's something off. It's the golf swing. It's just something. You can't just go to the range and hit balls and say, I'm going to get better. Sometimes you got to say, hey, will you look at this and tell me what I'm doing wrong?
You got to have someone looking at your swing. Yeah, that's something I'm gonna remember. Like always have someone looking at your swing. I'm gonna take that from the spot. So you do a lot of selling and coaching. What's some of the lessons you've learned about selling that you try to teach your loan officers?
It's challenging to always bring them something back. And what I've really learned through this probably the last 3 years is I can't switch themes drastically. I've got to stay into a theme and a tactic longer. And so right now I'm all on what we call portfolio, which is your database. Because right now rates are starting to trend a little bit lower. There's some questions on, well, maybe rates are getting in the right spot. Maybe I'll buy. Maybe I should refinance. Maybe I should do a cash out equity loan. Like there's so much questions out there. And so I'm pushing and coaching. How well are we connecting to our database? How many times are we touching them? And what are we doing so that if they think mortgage, they think us. And that is the piece that I'm really concentrating on today. The same thing is that realtors need help in being able to work with their pain points, right? So realtors also struggle with their database, connecting to them, calling them. And you're like, but Chris, I want like one script or one thing that an originator can listen to this and say, I got it. I'm like, I'm going to give it to you. You call your customers right now and you stop trying to look at them as a sales opportunity and you start to look at them as part of your portfolio. So the question is this: are you okay? I've had many clients out there that they've increased in debt, they've got their monthly payments too high, and they're struggling a bit. And so simply saying to someone, are you okay? And they say, well, what do you mean? Like, look, I check in with all my customers. I make sure you're good. I make sure the financial picture is still the same. And if there's anything I can ever do to help, I want to help you because I've been helping my database on a day-to-day basis of sometimes fixing some problems. And the second thing is that you ask this: what is your real estate goals and dreams for the next 5 years? And if we could just simply be quiet after we ask those two questions. It all comes out. And then here could be possibly an opportunity. That's it.
That's
That
it.
simple.
That's it. Asking a lot of questions
Just two,
just to.
right? Are you okay? And two, what's your real estate goals and dreams for the next 5 years? If they say, Michael, I want to buy a house, I want to buy a house in a year, simply me saying that I want to buy a house in a year means that they've already sped it up by over half by them saying it to you. So I already know in my CRM, 90 days I got to follow up. And that's it.
Simple. It's a very simple framework, but it works.
Yeah, it works, but the thing is that people make this business too hard, and the basics is where all the top originators in the country just do basics better than the rest. They think it's all the fancy stuff. It has nothing to do with fancy stuff. It has everything to do with just do the basics.
Just do the basics. Chris, as we wrap up here, I want to talk about, family. You're a family man. And, I've heard from you that both your children are now in the business. What advice do you give them as they navigate their careers?
Well, I mean, you give advice to my kids or
Yeah.
give advice to the audience?
No, to your kids as
Mm.
they navigate the business. Like being a family man, they're not they're working with you, but they also have to. So I'll give you a background. I come from a family where my dad was an engineer, but I spent a lot of time with my mom. And my dad is this sort of like this prolific engineer, and I always feel like I have to do better than my parents. And parents do want their kids to do better than them. And so, being in the same industry as your kids, you have a lot of experience in them, and you can coach them. What advice do you give to them as they navigate?
Well, I mean, I always tell my kids it's your path, not my path. And the hardest thing, the best thing that I ever said to them was this: I can't want it worse than you. And so that, I mean, it's, when we come home and we get home and we're having dinner time or we're having family time, do we talk mortgage? Yeah. Is it Shalice's favorite? No. So we got to like make sure we shut it off. And shutting it off is a hard thing. And I'm going from boss to dad. And so I learned that probably from my parents because they went from boss to dad or mom. And so I learned how to shut that off and work through it. But Shalise is really good of being able to get that shut off or remind me to shut that off or, hey, we're doing family time or, hey, do we have to talk about mortgage tonight? And we're like, okay, all right, we won't talk about it. But it's in our blood. I don't think Shelby wanted to be a veterinarian. And for her whole life, she was going to be a veterinarian. And then all of a sudden, mortgage grabbed her and she never left. I think Clay kind of wanted to always be in mortgage or be a race car driver. Mortgage probably seemed a little bit easier path than being a race car driver. Like, they're learning and they had to learn to work with others regardless of who their last name was. If, someone would talk crap or whatever, all the obstacles that ever come away with that, they had to learn to get thick skin too. And so I'm proud of both of them. They're both working towards their careers and working towards their goals, not mine. And I think the thing is that we got to let our kids like your parents are I'm know for a fact they are super proud of you, but we got to let you run your race. And so I'll end with this. You got to picture yourself as a racehorse and you have blinders on. And all I ask as a parent or a boss is stay on the racetrack. Don't get off the racetrack. And the reason why blinders were put on horses, by the way, is because horses were paying attention to other horses. And I don't want an originator or AEs or my kids to be staring and paying attention to everybody else. I just want them to be focused forward and run your race because that's what gets you the best result. And if we can drive that to our kids or to our employees, you'll have better in both categories.
That's beautiful, Chris. How can our audience reach out to you?
Yeah, you can hook me up on Instagram or Facebook, Chris Vinson. I'm pretty easy to find, or LinkedIn if that's your way, or just go to plainscommerce.com and connect with me there.
See, Chris, this has been one of the most insightful episodes I've had on the pod. So I want to thank you so much for coming. I'm sure our audience is going to love it. This has been another episode of the Loan Officer Playbook, and I'll see you in the next one.